two sides, and then I will write the measurements down on the board, and then we can figure out how long it is.
So I'll put my ruler here and then you put it at the end.
But they're not long enough.
Yeah, that's what we move mine.
Okay.
What is
That's the
it?
big
Doesn't
step.
say. It doesn't say what they are.
Well, we know that I know we discussed this before, but it was just very briefly, so maybe you guys forgot. On each side of a ruler, there are two measurements. The bigger one is inches, and then the smaller one is centimeters, which they use in countries like Europe and over there.
Millimeters.
Millimeters mean the really tiny marks in between there, but that would take a ton of millimeters to measure this one side, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So let's use the biggest measurement, which is inches.
Okay, you hold it there.
Okay.
And then we know that each one of yours is 12. So if we have 12, I'll write this on the board so you guys can help me add it in a second. All right, and how many did we get here?
Well, mine is 12 more.
Yours is 12.
It's 11 and some.
11 and some. So let's take a look at the ruler and see what we can figure out when it's between inches. So this mark right here is halfway between 11 and 12. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and that's really close.
Right. And so could we maybe say that this is 11 and a half inches?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That would make sense? Okay.
Okay, I'll start on this end.
And I know that we've just barely started working with fractions, so they're a little confusing. But I'm sure you guys can
Okay.
1,
understand
2,
this. Okay.
3.
4.
5.
And that one's really close to exactly what we measured before. Do you remember what we did when it was between the two?
11 and a half.
11 and a half. Awesome.
That's 6 of those.
It was 6
Oh,
ruler lengths
see.
down.
I was gonna say 6 rulers.
Oh. And then that was your 6th one?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, you girls can sit back down. We're done with the rulers for a little while.
Why did you put
7.
11 and 5 on that one? And then you put 11 and a half on
Because
that one.
we haven't dealt with decimals yet, and I forgot. And so we know that this is 12 inches. Do you girls remember what 12 inches is equal to?
A foot.
A foot. And so instead of saying, adding up all these crazy inches, because that would be a really big number, we can just count each group of 12 as a foot, can't we?
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Okay. So for the first one, which is width, we have 1, 2, and 11 and a half, which is about 3 feet. So we have 2 feet and 11 and a half inches. And then down here we have lots of groups of 12, right? How many groups of 12 do we have, Amelia?
5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so that means that we have 5 feet because 12 inches is equal to 1 foot. And then we have 11 and a half inches. And so before, when we discussed that this side is the same as this side, how could we use these numbers up here? Because we only have
There's
2 sides measured, right? How would we do it so we had 4 sides
There's
measured?
the 2 of each. So there's 2 of that and
Mhm.
2 of that.
So how could we
So you could
make
just
it 2?
take 2 feet and 11 and a half inches plus 2 feet and 11 and a half.
We could do that. And since 11 and a half is so close to an extra foot, I think we might just approximate and make these 3 feet because it's a little easier to add. So we say that this is about 3 feet. And this one's about, it's really close to what? 6 feet, yep. Okay, and so like Amelia said, we can add this to itself to find the length of this side and this side. So we have 3 plus 3 is what? Shout it out.
6.
6, awesome. And then we can do the same thing down here, can't we? So we have 6 plus 6 equals
12.
12, great. And so then if we know the length of these 2 sides plus these 2 sides, what do we have to do to get the length all the way around?
So for perimeter, we want to find all of it.
Yep, perimeter is, oh, I forgot to discuss that. Perimeter is the entire length all the way around a table.
What about the middle?
The middle, that's something that we'll cover a little later, but it's called area. And so if you think
So
about it,
didn't you say it's the area around?
it's the length around.
Okay.
Because we measured, do you remember we measured this one and we called it the length?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so then we know that these two sides together are 12, and these two sides together are 6.
So then we have to add all of them together.
Right.
So we
we-
have to add 12 and 6.
Awesome job. So we have 12 plus 6 equals, do you guys know what that is? 18. So for this table, we would say that the perimeter around it is 18. And do you remember what our units are?
Feet.
18 feet around. And so we realized that measuring in feet is a little bit more practical than measuring in people, right? Because can you imagine trying to fit 18 people around this table?
Yeah, 'cause they're different sizes too.
Yeah, people aren't exactly 1 foot around, are they?
No.
Or wide, so that would be kind of rough. Okay, what we're gonna do next is I have a worksheet for you guys, and we're gonna measure a bunch of different objects. They're not as big as the table, so it won't be as hard. And you're gonna measure around them, write down your answers, and then add up the perimeters, just like we did on the board together. And you guys are gonna work in a pair. And so let me get your measurements for you here. And the first one is the whiteboard, which is this poster right here. So you girls can work together, measure around, and then make sure you write down your inches down here. And in the directions it says measure to the closest half inch.
Okay.
So just like we did in our example.
Mm-hmm.
And let me get the pyramid
I'll
for you.
do this side.
Okay.
Steph, I like the way you just used your finger to mark where your ruler ended.
Thanks.
That's a good idea.
Steph, what did you get for this one?
14 and a half. What'd you get?
Well, I got 9.5 plus 12.5, so I got 21. No. Yeah, 21.5. How do I know which one is the width and which one is the length?
Well, when you talk about finding perimeter, you usually talk about one side is the width and one side is the length. It really doesn't matter since
Okay.
you're adding them all together, but typically the length will be the longer side.
Okay, so the bigger one is the
Yeah.
length.
Which is what you found for your bottom, right? Because you added your 9.5 plus your 12 together.
Yep.
All right. I like the way you girls are writing out your math on the worksheets too.
Thanks. What'd you get?
I'm still adding.
Steph, what'd you get for your answer?
74.
74.
I didn't do it like Amelia.
How did you do it? Can you explain it to me?
I did like we did on the board, and I made the 14 and a half, 15, and 21 and a half, 22.
All right, and so we got 74 around.
Mm-hmm.
I got 72 too.
I got 74.
Well, Steph did what we did on the board, which was rounding. And so she rounded up for those 4 extra halves, and that's the difference in your two numbers.
So who's right?
Well, since yours was an approximation, since we rounded, yours is very close to the answer of 72. So your approximation is correct and her computation is correct.
Well, because when I added 1/2 and 1/2, I got
It came to 1,
more.
right?
Yeah.
Mhm. And so then that's where you have those extra 2.
Oh,
Right.
yeah, because this is 1 and this
Uh-huh.
is 2.
All right, do you want to move on to the next one?
Mhm.
All right, and this is the top of your desk, by the way, since we don't have desks.
That's not a rectangle.
It's not a rectangle. Do you guys know what shape this is?
This
We
is,
talked about it a couple weeks ago.
This is like a square, kind of.
It's kind of like a square, but edges aren't straight, are they?
No.
No. You're about out of time. This one's called a trapezoid, and we only mentioned it a couple weeks ago because you won't be working with it until 5th grade. But basically what it is, it's just a rectangle, but the sides are slanted. Does that kind of make sense?
So are any of the sides the same?
We'll look at it. Let's see. The top and the bottom aren't the same, are they?
These ones.
No.
Those ones, these sides are the same though, right?
So it's just,
Yeah.
you do the same thing, but
just for that
different.
one pair of sides, yep.
So these we can write the same number for.
For these two, yep. The other ones you have to measure separately though. Do you want me to wrap it up?
Gotta go to art class.
Okay, well, since it's about 5 minutes till art class, guys, we're gonna hold on to our worksheets and we'll finish them up for tomorrow. You guys did a wonderful job of measuring. We'll review what we did today in class tomorrow just to make sure that everything kind of clicked. And we're gonna measure this one tomorrow. Does that look a little scary and intimidating?
I found those hard.
Yeah, you guys are gonna be pros at this by the time we're done tomorrow. So you guys can pack up your stuff and line up and we're gonna go to art.